Welcome to AP Textbook Lecture 1.5, The Scope of Government in America. One goal of this textbook is to familiarize the student with different ways to approach and answer the crucial questions that the authors raise. In particular, the text focuses on one of the most important questions facing modern American democracy, and that is the scope of government too broad, too narrow, or just about right? There is a divide among Americans regarding how powerful government should be. Some want an active, responsible government that solves problems. Those who are inclined to support an active role for government argue that its intervention is sometimes the only means of achieving important goals for American society. How else, they ask, can we ensure that people have enough to eat, that we have clean air and water, and affordable health care? How else can we ensure that the disadvantaged are given opportunities for education and jobs and are not discriminated against? Others believe government intervention is more likely to harm than to produce good. Opponents of widening the scope of government agree that these are worthwhile goals, but challenge whether involving the federal government is an effective way of dealing with them. Our government spends about $3.8 trillion yearly. National, state, and local governments in America collectively spend 29% of our gross domestic product, which is the value of all goods and services produced annually by the United States. The government employs 2.8 million civilians and 1.4 million in the military, making it the largest employer by far in the United States. The government owns a third of the land in the United States. And the government occupies 2.6 billion square feet of office space. The scope of government was one of the focus of the recent political debate over the historic health care reform bill we mentioned earlier. The political debate over the historic health care reform bill signed into law by President Obama in March 2010 often involved the critical question of scope of government. Opponents of the bill often denounced it as an unwarranted governmental takeover of health care. For example, Representative Paul Ryan, who has just been nominated for vice president under the Republican ticket, said it constituted a paternalistic ideology at odds with our historic commitment to individual liberty, limited government, and entrepreneurial dynamism. In contrast, proponents argued that this is exactly the sort of role the government should be taking on. For example, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi said that it would lead to healthier lives and more liberty to pursue hopes, dreams, and happiness. So, what role did the Constitution's authors foresee for the federal government? Does the Constitution favor a government with a broad scope, or is it neutral on this issue? Why did the functions of government increase, and why did they increase most at the national rather than the state level? Has bigger, more active government constrained freedom, or does the increased scope of government serve to protect civil liberties and civil rights? Does the public favor a large, active government? Do competing political parties predispose the government to provide more public services? Do elections help control the scope of government, or do they legitimize an increasing role for the public sector? Are pressures from interest groups necessarily translated into more governmental regulations, bigger budgets, and the like? Has media coverage of government enhanced government's responsibilities and scope, or have the media been an instrument for controlling government? Has the president been a driving force behind increasing the scope and power of government? Can the president control a government with so many programs and responsibilities? Is Congress, because it is subject to constant elections, predisposed towards big government? Is Congress too responsive to the demands of the public and organized interests? Are the federal courts too active in policymaking, intruding on authority and responsibility of other branches and levels of government? Is the bureaucracy too acquisitive, constantly seeking to expand its budgets and authority, or does it simply reflect the desires of the elected officials? Is the bureaucracy too large and thus a wasteful menace to the efficient and fair implementation of public policies? Please answer the following question in your learning blog.